Welcome back. Right now, the city of Peoria faces a tough decision to fix its budget issues. Nearly 30 layoffs are on the table, and joining me now is Adam Schuster with the Illinois Policy Institute. Adam, thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get right into it. Peoria faces a $1.5 million budget deficit. You think that pensions could play a part into the solution. How is that?
Well, what we're seeing is that across Illinois, and it's really obvious here in Peoria, but also in the South Chicago suburb of Harvey, that the contributions to the pension systems are crowding out core government services today. So people are paying higher taxes, property taxes are going up to pay for yesterday's government in the form of pensions. The budget documents from the city of Peoria say that 85% of property tax dollars now go to pension payments, not services, and starting in 2019, that's going to be 100%. That means none of the property taxes the city collects will be able to be used for operations because it's all going to be sucked up by the pension payment. So what we're asking for is a reasonable constitutional amendment that allows for changes to future benefit accruals to bring the pension systems in line with what taxpayers can afford and to make sure that the systems are sustainable for those who rely on it.
What would you claim is reasonable? How do you define that, and what's your plan for that?
So I think what we can do is we can actually make serious dents in our pension payments by clarifying via the constitutional amendment that while earned benefits are protected, so if you're a retiree and you're receiving a $3,000 monthly check, that amount's not going to go down. If you're a current worker who knows what your annuity is, that amount's not going to go down. But we can change the rate of accrual, or the rate of the benefit increases actually can have a meaningful impact on our pension debts.
Do you think this is fair? I mean, there are a lot of people who are going to push back on this anytime you're talking about pensions, and particularly when you're talking about police and fire.
Sure.
Is this conversation of keeping money essentially from the pensions of police and fire, is that fair?
So I think we have to ask about fair to whom. So it's whether it's fair for the pensioners and whether it's fair for taxpayers who fund the systems, and we need to find the right balance there. So in Arizona and Minnesota, we had public employee unions who were on board with pension reform in those states because they knew they needed it to make sure that those systems were there for them that they're relying on. Because if these systems go insolvent, if they go bust, that doesn't help the pensioners either. So pension reform is just as much about protecting retirement security for government workers as it is protecting taxpayers.
And the other thing I want to ask you is, where does this change actually take place? I mean, this isn't something that local municipalities typically can have control over. This is something that would have to be really dealt with at the state level. Do you think that's actually going to happen? Are we seeing any traction?
I think we're seeing momentum build around the need for pension reform. Locally, you have a great city manager who's called for a comprehensive solution from Springfield. You also have Senator Chuck Weaver, your state senator here locally, who's reached out to the Illinois Policy Institute to begin talking about pension reform. And we see a range of interest groups and media that are starting to talk about this issue because it really is the biggest financial problem we face. And if you want balanced budgets, if you want property tax relief, you have to have pension reform. It's a necessary first step.
All right, as I said, I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to push back anytime you're talking about pension reform, or taking money out of that or keeping it from it. But certainly, it's conversations that will continue to be had and probably should be had.
And I would just add that pensioners should be part of that conversation, and this is about finding right balance where we can protect their retirement security and make sure it's sustainable and affordable.
All right, Adam Schuster with the Illinois Policy Institute, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
All right.